We know that there's a lot that goes into selecting your major, deciding what it is that you're going to do. And a lot has been kind of shaping our minds about what we should do since we were little kids. A couple of us were talking last night. One of the most important exams that you take when you graduate high school in Egypt, that final exam determines what it is you're going to do for the rest of your life. Okay? And the highest scores go to physicians or doctors. The next level goes to perhaps an engineer or lawyer. And then so on and so forth, all the way down to the bottom feeders, you know, which whatever you determine or our culture has determined are the bottom feeders. That's the order that it goes in. But today what we're hoping to do is to expose your thinking and broaden your thinking a little bit about what are some of the different professions that maybe we haven't considered. The top 3.5 professions that we think about sometimes. And you know what those are in your mind, right? Today what we're going to be talking about, we're going to be going through what it takes to choose a major, okay? Once you've chosen a major and you're in college, how do you stay focused? And thirdly and importantly is when you're in university setting, there's a lot of things that you have in front of you. A lot of things that are available to you as a student that sometimes you don't know about. And we have someone who's working in administration currently who's going to be speaking to you about that as well. After we finish those brief talks, there's going to be a panel from different career paths. We've got dentists, physicians, pharmacists, healthcare section, if you will. We've got engineering, accounting, business, law, etc. We've got a whole range of a panel of career professionals, experts, that are going to be answering questions and speaking to you about different routes you can take in order to reach your final destination. What are some of the questions you should think about when it comes to finances? How much you're going to make and how much it's going to cost, perhaps, okay? Are there going to be jobs when you graduate? A lot of the questions that some of us, we might not think about. I want you to stretch your minds a little bit today and think outside of the box, because I want us to really challenge ourselves, as we didn't just come here to learn a specific question, okay, or get a specific answer to a specific question, but I want you to challenge yourself a little bit. Is there something out there that you haven't thought about? Or is there a route that you haven't maybe considered? And I want you, as you're hearing the discussions, the talks, the panelists speak, I want you to kind of, if you will, think a little bit outside of the box and ask some of those questions, okay? There's only good questions today, okay? I expect a lot of involvement, engagement. Without further ado, I'll just introduce the first talk. Maura is going to be speaking about how it is that you can choose a major and what goes into choosing that major. And what does that all look like, okay? So without further ado, please welcome Maura.
So, welcome everyone here today. This is a great talk because this is about the rest of your life, in some ways. So we're going to talk today about how to choose a college major and a career path. Obviously, there's a relationship between the major that I choose and the career that I end up in. I was kind of hesitant to say this to you, but I will. The truth is, these days, that the college major you choose, a lot of times, does not always directly impact the career you end up in. And the reason is, in our economy, in our society, in our day and age, it's different than it was 20, 30 years ago. 20, 30 years ago, people sort of decided upon a single career path or landed a single job. And for the most part, and when we think of our parents, or our friends' parents, this will seem more real. They usually stay in that job or that career. Whereas today, on average, people are expected, in general, to change their job at least 3 to 5 times. And possibly within that transition, actually shift their career entirely. So when I worked at a university, We had a lot of people who were, in business for years, and they left, and they came to be a teacher, or they came to be a nurse, or whatever it might be. I want to speak to that first, and then we'll move on. Part of that, actually, does anyone have any idea why there are some people, especially, say, the last 1 or 2 decades, who've been changing careers more from, say, finance and economics and some of the more lucrative, even medicine, and going into more of the social service careers? Any guess as to why?
Some people get laid off or unemployment.
Right. So, well, sometimes it's layoff or unemployment, so it comes from the outside. But sometimes people just within themselves, they actually get into what they think is like the perfect career, the perfect job. They work hard to get there, and then they feel a sense of emptiness, really, and the lack of fulfillment. So what I'm going to start with today is I'm going to ask you a question, because whatever major you choose, whatever career path you decide upon, one of the most important things is that you're doing something that is going to fulfill you and have meaning to you. You'll see the importance of this. Turn to the person next to you, and in exactly 3 minutes, I want you to discuss with the person 2 things that interest you, 2 things that you can do well, and 2 things that you value the most in life, okay? So turn to the person next to you, regardless if you're here for your son or daughter or for yourself, whatever it is. Just reflect on these 3 points. What interests you? What can you actually do well? And what do you value? Okay, let's come back together. I won't say who, but someone in this room who's already a professional and a working individual said, gosh, I can't even answer those questions. And that's actually typical. A lot of times we're on this tunnel vision to get through high school, get into college, get out, make some money, get a job, and we don't really stop and reflect on, like, what interests me? And interest is important, but let's be honest, what am I good at? Because I could be really interested in the brain, but I might not be able to, I'm not good at science. It's just not one of my talents, right? And what do I value? Am I a person, like, I'll call out Abuna Michael. One of the things I think we all know about Abuna, he values social justice. That's why Abuna's been going to Washington, D.C. That's why Abuna has been part of the collective of the bishops and the priests who's trying to determine the rights of our Coptic brothers and sisters in Egypt, as well as here. He's passionate about it. He values it. It's important to all of us, but it's of greater, things that have value to you might have less value to me. So these are 3 key questions. Is there anyone who would like to share with us, when reflecting on these questions, what was it like to think about what are you interested in, what can you do, and what do you value? Can anyone comment on what that was like?
So the first thing I was thinking was maybe the things that interest me have to do with what I do, my activities, my job, my career. But then I was thinking, what interests me as a person. So I think there's a difference between the 2.
Were you able to answer that second part? What interests you as a person?
Yeah, I was able to answer. My interests have to do with sports, and I said driving too. So that has nothing to do with my career.
Were you able to identify at least 1 or 2 things that you're actually good at?
Things I'm good at?
Not that you're not good at those other things, I meant.
I said that I'm good at listening to people and understanding them.
Okay, good. Good at listening to people. And what is something that you value?
My faith and my family.
Your faith and your family.
Close relationship.
Very important. Close relationships. Very important, okay? Let's look here. On average, if we look at the hours of our life, God give us long life, that are invested Look at this. From grades 1 to 12, I'm not going to put a number on it, but somewhere above 10,000 hours. College, which is typically, these days it could be, this is probably only based on 4 years, but we know college could be longer, much less. But look at, for those of us who are working, how much of our life, how many hours of our life are invested in that? And how important it is that it aligns with what we're interested in, what we're good at, and what we value. And that's why it's time, we could have come here and started this presentation and said, okay, here's the top majors, here's where you're going to make money, here's where you're going to get in. But if it's not what you're interested in, if it's not what you're good at, and if it's not what you value, then it doesn't really make sense. It's the same thing, and I'm going to say it from the beginning. It's the same thing that my parents did to me when they said, we'd love for you. Well, my parents actually encouraged me to go into medicine. I'll use Abuna as a different example. His parents wanted to force him into it. This is the best career. This is going to make the fact that we left our country, our family, our heritage, and everything else worth it for us to be here. If you're not a doctor, our life is really meaningless. Do you like to work with people? Like, is that important to you? Do you enjoy science? Are you good at it? Are you good at managing your time? Because if you're not good at managing your time, you're probably not going to be a very good doctor either, in general. And what do you value? Do you value the health of people, or are you more into the valuing, say, sports, or, say, education or something else? There wasn't that conversation happening, okay? So here's a guiding principle. Pick your major on the pleasure principle. For what you most enjoy studying will draw your mind in the liveliest way to being educated. In other words, if you study and you enter a field that you love, that you care about, that you're passionate about, it's going to bring out from you the best of you, okay? It's going to draw the best out of you. But I say that, and then you're saying, oh, well, and I hear this from a lot of guys, well, I love sports. I just want to be an NBA player. I'm going to make it. And that's it, period. That's not a responsible decision, okay? I'm saying that's why I added here, pursue your passion, but with a realistic framework. You have to have a realistic framework about a backup plan, what's going to pay the bills, what's going to allow you to have a family if you really want one, okay? So yes, pursue your dreams, pursue your desires and interests and your abilities, but do it within a realistic framework. No, I'm thinking like if you're a physical therapist, there's a lot of ranks in the police academy.